Hey class, so for this discussion video, I decided to do my research over Catholicism. Um, Catholicism, I found a couple of things that were pretty interesting to me. I thought it was interesting that three Catholics were present at the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And from research that I've seen, only one, Charles Carroll, was the only Catholic, Roman Catholic, to sign the Declaration of Independence, which I thought was pretty cool. Um, Prior to this, I didn't realize as time went on that Catholic churches were becoming popular in the South, but within my research, it says they grew heavily there, which I wasn't expecting since in the beginning, 11 out of 13 colonies made being Catholic pretty much illegal, and they tolerated them. Pennsylvania was the only colony that allowed Catholics to participate in public mass, which during this time, it's interesting because the US, well, not the US, but the colonies, when they came, they were leaving to escape religious persecution in Europe. So to come here and then be pretty much told you can't serve or practice your faith the way you want to, it kind of contradicts itself. So in the book, A History of the Catholic Church in the American South from 1513 to 1900, it just talks about the different eras where Catholicism was present in American history. So within that, they also discuss a time where Charles Carroll and John Chase, I want to say, I didn't write his name down, but if I remember correctly, John Chase, they at some point were doing a military mission in Canada, pretty much trying to recruit the Canadian and French soldiers to come to America to help us with the American Revolution, us, like, the colonies with the American Revolution. But that military invasion into Canada, like today's Quebec, failed. It was like, it wasn't a success. So what they eventually did is, after, while other people were still staying there, Charles Carroll moved back here to the colonies, like he came back to the colonies, and then went to Maryland and wanted Maryland to work towards independence and voting yes for independence, which I thought was really well, because when I think about other parts of history where Catholics were present, it's always been an issue where they're saying Catholics are more loyal to the church than the actual people and the best interests of the nation. I can't remember which I can't remember the exact president, but it happened recently. I think even when Mitt Romney was running for president, that was something. No, that was not Mormon. I can't really remember, but I just tied in the two when I was talking to y'all about it. But yeah, so it's always been a issue where they're like, oh, Catholics are more faithful to the church. They only care about the interests of the church. They don't actually care about the nation. So for the fact that Charles Carroll wanted to vote for Maryland and didn't have his loyalty to the Roman Catholic Church, he moved to. They ended up voting for independence, which was awesome, and they elected seven individuals for Congress, and one of them being Charles Carroll. And this is a big deal because he was the first Roman Catholic in that time period to actually be able to hold a position of political and national influence. So that was a huge deal. And then, of course, with him being in that spot, that allowed his influence to push his colony, as well as the other ones, to allow Catholics to vote, because prior to this, they weren't allowed to vote, and there were taxes, infringements on preventing them from voting. And they were, I think it was 1777 is when they actually got the right to vote as Catholics, not like all the other Christians were voting, but they weren't letting Catholics. So I thought that was interesting because I never knew that about Catholicism. So I hope this is good.